She danced the waltz at 3 a.m. Millionaire's brutal challenge leads to insane twist. The clock struck 3, its echo sharp as a scream in the stillness of the massive mansion. A full moon draped the world in pale light, illuminating a figure spinning across the marble floor, her gown trailing behind like a ghostess whisper. It was Clara, enigmatic and bold, dancing the waltz alone. Howling winds clawed at the windows, yet she moved with a grace that drew the night to her. A challenge had been laid out, bizarre and dark, and it seemed the wealthy elite had more of a presence in their bets than usual. But why a waltz at such an hour? Why now? Clara's eyes glimmered, reflecting not just the moonlight, but a strange spark of mischief. They say at this hour, the veil between worlds is thinnest, that spirits roam freely, and when the richest among us held their so-called exclusive parties, they danced with more than just shadows. There was something exhilarating and terrifying about it. Whispers filled the air. People huddled in corners, eyes wide with a mix of admiration and fear. Clara was known for accepting extravagant dares, but this twisted game was different. As she twirled, guests gasped. A sudden darkness swept through the open space, silencing the room. Gas lamps flickered in response, and for a moment, it felt like all that was real was her desperate turn against the pulling silence. The atmosphere thickened, holding secrets that crept beneath the surface. Every waltz step resonated like a heartbeat fast, frantic, alive. A challenge from a millionaire could lead to anything. Yet here she was, facing it head-on with wild abandon. Suddenly, a cracked voice broke through the tension. What will it cost her? It came from a man in a tailored suit, eyes gleaming with the thrill of the unknown. Gasps erupted as bets were placed, fingers pointed, and Clara was left spinning in her relentless dance. She held the room captive, every drop of sweat on her brow revealing not just exhaustion but an omen of what was to come. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The tension was electric as Clara caught sight of a shadowy figure lurking at the edge of the ballroom. Presence that didn't belong. It was a lonely gaze among familiar faces. Who were they? What did they want? Clara's heart raced. Something primal warned her this was not just another game. As she danced, she felt an unseen tether pulling her closer to the figure, her instincts shouting that here lay the true challenge. The ballroom suddenly felt smaller, the air thicker, stifling her breath. What would happen if she stopped? And in that moment, as her foot faltered on the polished floor, the music twisted into something sharper, darker, a cacophony of haunting melodies. The crowd held its breath. What dark twist awaited her? And what of the unseen figure watching from the shadows? Clara stumbled, her momentum breaking like a fragile dream under the weight of dread. The music spiraled into chaos, warping and twisting around her, calling her toward that distant figure. Eyes darting, she felt the weight of 1,000 stares on her, each one a mix of excitement and horror. The tantalizing thrill of the challenge began to feel like a noose tightening around her neck as she regained her rhythm. She saw the figure step forward into the moonlit glow. It was a woman, cloaked in a shimmering black gown that reflected the pale light like a living shadow. The strangers around Clara gasped, momentarily frozen in the grip of fear, for the woman's face was obscured, hidden beneath an intricately designed mask that seemed to breathe darkness itself. "Dance with me," the masked woman called, her voice velvety and chilled, echoing through the hushed crowd. It felt like a taunt, a dare wrapped in mystery. Clara, torn between fear and the seductive pull of the challenge, felt her heart pound wildly. The guests parted, a path forming between her and this surreal figure, an offer she couldn't refuse. With a deep breath, she approached, each step echoing louder than the last. The world melted away as she became enthralled in the woman's dark allure. The masked stranger extended a hand, silver rings glistening in moonlight like a promise or a threat. Clara reached out, her fingers trembling as they met the cold skin of the other's palm. The dance began, a waltz not just of bodies, but of souls intertwined in some eerie connection. The music shifted, taking on an urgency that echoed the quickening of Clara's pulse. They moved with expert precision, twirling effortlessly, yet Clara felt each spin channel a creeping dread vibrating through her bones. The crowd was swept along, their faces pale. She was no longer just performing for their delight, but engaging in a dance of fate. "What is this?" Clara whispered, barely audible against the haunting rhythm. The masked woman leaned closer, her breath ghosting over Clara's ear. "A reckoning, dear Clara. You accepted the challenge, but there are costs to every dare." Behind them, the crowd murmured, voices rising in intensity. Some shouted for Clara to break away, while others leaned in closer, enthralled by the spectacle. It was a frenzy of voices, each one sharper than glass, mixing with the chaotic tunes. Clara's mind raced. What was the price? What lay on the line? And then it hit her. The laughter, the bets, the thrill of the dance. The Millionaire's challenge was bringing something forth, something that had lain dormant in the mansion's depths. Her eyes darted toward the corners of the grand room. Shadows flickered, elongating like dark fingers reaching out, and the walls seemed to breathe, shifting and whispering secrets that no one but she could hear. "Let go," the masked woman urged, tugging Clara deeper into the dance. "Embrace it." The moment tipped. Clara had to decide. Cling to the safety of her fear or dive headfirst into the maelstrom. Her instincts battled with the intoxicating need to explore the unknown, to break free of the shackles that tied her to a life of ordinary dares. With a sudden jolt, she broke the rhythm, pulling away, but the world spun erratically around her. The music stuttered, then silenced. The guests gasped, their breaths held as Clara's eyes fixed back on the masks that now multiplied in the shadows. Was this a game or something far darker? Caught between worlds, she was left wondering. What would she lose if she walked away? Or worse, what would she unleash if she stayed? But before she could ponder further, the windows rattled with an otherworldly howl, and the masked woman's grip tightened, her eyes glowing from behind the mask. Dark portals filled with anguish. Clara's chest tightened. She was drawn in again, closer to the edge of oblivion. What truth lay ahead? What was the real challenge waiting in the recesses of the mansion? The night demanded answers as the walls whispered her name. Clara's mind spun like the chandeliers overhead, a chaotic whirl of doubt and fear. The masked woman held her tighter, their bodies woven in a frantic waltz that defied the very laws of nature. The world blurred around them, an amalgamation of gasps and murmurs, as if the mansion itself were alive, consuming her with every step. "What do you want?" Clara gasped, her heart racing in her chest. The masked woman leaned in, her voice dripping with dark seduction. "To awaken what sleeps," she breathed, the chill of her words slipping through Clara's defenses. "To unleash the truth that lies bound beneath this place and within you." Every heartbeat felt like a countdown. Clara's breath quickened, each gasp mingling with the shadows that danced around them. She caught sight of the other guests, some wide-eyed with terror, others entranced, as if powerless to look away. The tension in the room grew palpable, thick enough to choke on. The music shifted again, morphing into a haunting melody that seemed to echo with the mansion's long-buried secrets. Clara felt an unknowable force tugging at her, luring her deeper into the abyss of the masked woman's gaze. "You know this is madness," Clara shouted over the rising tempo. "We can't keep dancing like this." "Madness is a matter of perspective," the woman replied, her voice a silken whisper. "You thought you wanted to dance, to prove yourself. But this is more than a game, Clara. It's a rite of challenge, an awakening. You will pay a price either way, and only you can choose how much." Her words rang like a bell in Clara's mind, a stark reminder of the choices she had always made. The crowd's shouts reached a crescendo, voices blending into a haunting chorus. Clara's heart raced as she realized the nature of the challenge. Freedom came with chains already forged. The lights flickered, casting an eerie glow that painted the walls with shadows. In the corners of the room, ghastly shapes swirled, feeding off the mounting tension. Was she dreaming or trapped in a waking nightmare? The reality of her own fear cloaked her like a heavy garment. "Let me go," Clara cried, breaking the rhythm again. But the woman's grip was ironclad. With a quick flick of her wrist, she spun Clara around, forcing her to face the trembling guests. "Look at them," the masked woman hissed. "They crave the thrill of the unknown just as you do. They want you to choose." The spectators leaned in, breaths held and eyes wide. Clara felt the weight of their stares, the collective anticipation igniting something deep within her, a fire of desperation and defiance. The crowd had become part of the performance, their desires intertwining with the dance, their fates bartered at her feet. The windows rattled again, and a gust of wind swept through the room, carrying with it whispers of long-lost echoes. Clara trembled, the mask of the woman before her shimmering under the pale moonlight, taunting her resolve. "What will it be, Clara? Will you flee, or will you dive deeper? The choice is yours." The world tilted again. Clara's friends had always called her brave, but was that just a facade? Were they standing there for her, rooting for courage, or waiting for her to fall? With a deep breath, she searched for an answer in the dull thrum of her heart, where fear and excitement danced dangerously close as she wrestled with her decision. Something cracked in the air, a sharp snap of oppression that crackled like electricity. Suddenly, the lights flickered one last time before plunging the room into darkness. In that consuming void, Clara felt an overwhelming presence, a surge of power and terror intertwined. What had she unleashed, and what awaited her when the lights returned? The silence swallowed the room whole. Clara's heart pounded in the dark, a frantic drum echoing against her ribs. She felt the masked woman still beside her, the warmth of her breath teasing Clara's cheek. It was intoxicating and terrifying at once, a mix that sent shivers through her body. "Embrace the darkness," the woman whispered, her voice weaving in and out of the shadows like an ethereal mist. Clara wasn't sure if she should recoil or lean in closer. What did it mean to embrace the darkness? Did it mean to surrender, or to confront it head-on? A moment stretched like elastic, pulling tight, then snapping. The lights flared back to life, illuminating the ballroom with a cold, fluorescent glow. Clara instinctively squinted against the bright light, panic clawing at her throat. The scene before her struck with horrific clarity. The guests, previously enthralled by the dance, were now transformed, their faces twisted in expressions of fear and dread. They looked like marionettes, strings severed, suspended between horror and confusion. "Look," the woman urged, gesturing to the guests. "They've tasted the potential of the unknown. You're holding their fate in your hands." Clara spun around, frantic. "What have you done?" But the masked woman only stepped back, a sly smile creeping up her lips. The guests were now murmuring, their voices like a rising tide threatening to drown her. "What price will you pay?" Someone shouted from the crowd, their voice weighted with painful expectation. Clara's breath caught, drawing strength from the storm of chaos around her. Clara turned her gaze to the grand mirror that hung above the ornate fireplace. Her own reflection stared back, but there was something different about it, something dark flickering behind her eyes. Fear clenched her stomach as she realized this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was a reckoning. "No," she cried, shaking her head, but the warm whispers filled her ears, promising power, desire, everything she has ever wanted. "This was never about me." Yet deep down, a gripping pulse resonated with her heart, almost begging her to yield. "Wasn't it?" the masked woman teased, stepping closer until Clara could feel her presence, dense and consuming. "Everyone has a price, my dear. Choose wisely, for your spirit will not be the only one laid bare." In that moment, the electricity crackled around them again, an echo of the tension woven through the very walls of the mansion. The chandelier above them trembled as if echoing their inner turmoil. Suddenly, a shadow lunged towards Clara from the crowd, the figure of a man, wild-eyed with desperation. "Clara, don't!" he yelled, reaching for her, but the masked woman's arm shot out, like a steel bar blocking his path. The fear in his eyes cut through the haze, sharpening her focus. "Let me go!" Clara screamed, feeling the stirrings of rebellion rise within her. "I want to play your twisted game." "You're already playing, Clara," the woman coldly replied, her mask glinting like a predator's eyes. "The choice is not whether to play or not. It's how you will play." A loud crash erupted behind her, shattering the trance. Clara spun, wide-eyed as one of the ornate panels on the wall splintered under the force of something unseen. The darkness seemed alive, clawing at the edges of the room as the guests began to scream. Clara felt a surge of power course through her. What lay beyond the released darkness? And would she become its pawn? Or its master? A tremor quaked through the earth beneath her feet. What new horror awaited in the shadows, ready to drag her deeper into a whirlpool of fate? Clara's vision blurred as the screams erupted around her, the chaos transforming the once glamorous ballroom into a cacophony of terror. The air thickened, suffocating and electric, as she felt the weight of the room's desperation pressing down. She turned back to the masked woman, whose smile now radiated demonic glee, her eyes glinting like shards of broken glass. The man who had cried out for her, he was still there, straining against the barrier the masked figure had formed. Panic etched into his features, his hands clawed through the air pleading. Clara's heart raced, pounding in unison with the frantic shouts of the crowd. "Please, you have to trust me." His voice broke through the din, laced with urgency and genuine fear. "Trust? In what? This madness?" Clara's voice faltered, caught between doubt and the rising tide of power pulsing beneath her skin. The warmth emanating from the dark force surged, promising clarity, but also destruction. Suddenly, the walls of the ballroom seemed to pulse with a sinister heartbeat, the lavish decorations wilting like flowers in decay. The lavish chandelier trembled violently, casting strange shadows that danced along with the horror unfolding. Clara could see the faces of the trapped guests, their eyes wide and terrified, reflecting her own internal struggle. Were they waiting for her to save them, or to doom them further? "Make a choice," the masked woman taunted, her voice slicing through the air like a sharpened blade. "Embrace the gift, or deny it." Clara stepped forward, uncertainty creeping into her veins like ice. Each heartbeat pounded in her ears, an echo of the question she desperately tried to ignore. What if the darkness promised more than mere survival? What if it whispered visions of power, of control, a chance to turn the tables? "Will you bow to fear, or rise with it?" the woman hissed, eyes burning into Clara. "Join us and unleash what lies inside. You have the chance to take the reins. If I do this, what happens to them?" Clara gestured to the crowd, her body tense, ready to back away from the brink. But her grip tightened on the energy trembling around her, shouting to be unleashed. "Ah, but that's the question, isn't it?" The masked woman leaned in, a conspiratorial whisper cutting through the chaos. "A reckoning for those who doubt, and a reign for the one who dares." The guests continued to writhe in fear, confusion etching deeper on their faces as the room morphed into a nightmare. The shadow of the unknown loomed ever larger, wrapping its fingers around Clara's mind. "Let go of who you think you are. Become who you were meant to be," the woman urged. As the panic escalated, Clara felt her resolve crack. She had no idea how to navigate this shadowy realm, but the lure was intoxicating. The power whispered directly to her, raw and undeniable. With a sudden burst of courage, Clara slammed her foot to the floor, a mix of defiance and determination swirling inside her. "No, I won't let this darkness take anyone else. I might face this whatever it is alone." "Alone?" the woman laughed, her voice rising above the chaos. "True power is never alone, Clara. Embrace what you fear, and you will be unstoppable." With a ferocity born of desperation, Clara lunged towards the masked woman, a reckless determination burning in her chest. Everything swirled into disarray. Visions of potential futures flashed before her of strength, of chaos, of liberation, and of doom. But just as her fingertips grazed the woman's masked face, the world around them exploded in a whirl of light and shadow, cascading into a terrifying fracture that split the very fabric of reality. Clara. The man's voice sliced through the haze as the darkness roared to life, threatening to engulf them all. Choose wisely. As the swirling shadows converged, Clara's vision began to dissipate, the room spiraling into an abyss. Where would the choice she made take her? The power she felt, would it lead to her salvation or damnation? And before she could grapple with the implications, the darkness swallowed her whole. Clara fell into a void, a thick mist swirling around her, painting her surroundings in murky shades of doubt and despair. She felt weightless, as though gravity had abandoned her. The screams from the ballroom faded, replaced by a deafening silence that pressed against her ears like an iron fist. But then, just as suddenly, voices emerged from the darkness, whispers, frantic and urgent. Clara, that familiar voice tugged at her heart. It was him, the man who had reached for her. But where was he? Panic clawed at her throat as she tried to focus, to drag herself back from the abyss. Clara. He called again, closer this time, though the shadows twisted his voice like smoke, dragging her deeper into confusion. You have to listen. And then she felt it, a surge of energy like a thunderstorm rolling through her veins. Clara blinked hard, and the mists gave way to a dimly lit space. She was standing in what looked like an endless corridor, lined with ornate mirrors reflecting twisted versions of herself, each one grinning evilly back at her. What is this place? She whispered, fear wrapping around her like a serpent. Your choice brought you here. The whisper echoed through the corridor, growing louder. Welcome to the realm of reckoning. This is where the truth comes to light. Clara kept walking, each step stirring the shadows around her. She could feel the dark energy still lurking inside her, a siren song that begged her to reach out, to let it guide her. But memories of the ballroom, the faces of those trapped souls, clouded her judgment. Would unleashing that power save them, or seal their fates? Clara. There was urgency in his voice now, braided with a hint of desperation. You need to confront it. Don't let it control you. Fight back. As she moved deeper into this strange new world, images began to emerge from the mirrors. Fractured memories of her past childhood nightmares, moments of vulnerability, and shadows of doubt that twisted her self-image. With every blink, she relived each fear, each failure. Conflicted, she backed away, heart racing. Look again, the voice urged. You're stronger than this. Don't let them dictate who you are. Clara leaned closer to a mirror that flickered with a fiery glow. In it, she saw herself standing tall, surrounded by people smiling and clapping. She wore a crown, sparkles dancing around her like starlight. But behind her, a dark figure loomed, its hollow eyes boring into her, just like the masked woman. Is that who I'm meant to be? Clara whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. I have to choose, don't I? It was an overwhelming force, this dark energy. But as she hesitated, the mirror cracked, reflecting a world in turmoil, chaotic and destructive. Clara's heart hammered. No, I can't. Suddenly, the walls of the corridor began to close in, the mirrors warping around her as shadows crept closer, whispering in a cacophony. Embrace it. You can't escape what you truly are. Clara felt her breath quicken, the shadows pushing into her mind. Fight, she screamed, the resolve building inside her. I won't let you win. Just then, the corridor erupted in blinding light as the walls shattered into shards. A wave of energy surged through her, powerful and relentless. The shadows screamed, dissipating in the wake of her growing strength. Clara stood firm, no longer the frightened girl but fierce and determined. You don't own me, she shouted, her voice reverberating, shaking the foundations of this realm. But as the last remnants of darkness faded, a figure materialized from the rubble, a silhouette cloaked in shadow. Clara's heart dropped into her stomach. You think you've won? It sneered, the voice laced with contempt. This is just the beginning. Before she could react, the darkness swirled back, wrapping around her. Clara felt the energy rise within her. A choice looming, daunting but necessary. Are you ready to realize your full potential? The figure mocked. The air grew thick with anticipation as Clara prepared to face the unknown once more. What awaited her at this new crossroads? Her heart thundered in her ears. And then the darkness consumed her again, leaving an echoing question hanging in the air. Would she be able to rise from the ashes stronger, or would she be swallowed whole? As the darkness enveloped Clara, it felt like being submerged in ice-cold water, breath-sucking and numbing. Her senses dulled, and all she could hear was the thundering pulse in her ears. Shadows pressed in, whispering all the things she feared. You will be nothing, failure. You can't escape. But then, a spark ignited within her, a fierce flame of defiance. She would not let them win. Gritting her teeth, she reached deep inside herself, reeling in that energy she had just unleashed. Each heartbeat pulsed with growing power, and she stood rooted, steady in the storm of chaos swirling around her. Underneath the haze, Clara sensed the figure still lurking, a predator watching her every move. You think you're special? The cloak of shadow taunted, stepping closer, its form flickering like an old film reel. Everyone here is just a puppet, including you. No, Clara shouted, her voice strong, slicing through the murmur of shadows like a blade. I decide my fate. In that moment, everything shifted. The shadows halted, as if her determination stunned them. The figure's face twisted into a grimace, surprise flashing in its hollow eyes. Clara's body buzzed with energy, exhilarating and terrifying. Confront your true self, then, it howled, the sound reverberating through the air. The shadows writhed in agitation, and the mirrors cracked once more, splintering to reveal a kaleidoscope of alternate realities. Clara stepped closer, her heart racing. Each scene mirrored moments she had wished to forget, dark thoughts that gnawed at her confidence. A failed school presentation, a broken friendship, the haunting betrayal by someone she had loved. But deep within, she could feel the warmth of those tender moments, the bits of joy woven between the pain. Face what you've avoided, the figure hissed, and this time, it was not just aimed at her failures, but also her triumphs. The bright moments emerged fiercely, the loved ones who cheered her on, the simple joy of laughing with friends, the times she fought through adversity. With each step, she felt that darkness losing ground. You will not define me, she proclaimed, and the mirror images started to shatter, scattering shards like stars across a vast void. Suddenly, she felt her chest tighten, a shifting power whispered through her veins, the weight of her decision hanging tantalizingly close. But what if I do embrace it? The shadows murmured, wrapping around her again, clutching at her will. What if the darkness is part of your true self? Clara hesitated, those words digging deep. The figure grinned, a cruel, knowing smile, and leaned closer, its voice dripping with temptation. Freedom lies in embracing both sides. Don't fight it. Join us. The shadows pulsed, tugging at her spirit. Clara's heart raced. Was this the final test? Would accepting this darkness mean she had to sacrifice her light? She felt the pull of despair as she grappled with the idea. Could she harness it instead? Choose wisely, Clara. The echo of the figure's voice thundered, and in that lingering moment of uncertainty, she made her choice. Gathering every ounce of courage within her, she cried out, I am both light and dark. I will not be confined by one. The mirrors exploded in a frenzy of colors, their reflections warping until they coalesced into a singular image, herself, strong and shining. Clara could feel the balance settling within her, the dark energy transforming and intertwining instead of overpowering. But just as everything began to stabilize, a rumbling erupted beneath her, and the ground shook violently. Cracks formed beneath her feet, plunging into an abyss. From those depths, a shadow emerged, massive and intimidating. What have you done? It boomed, reverberating through the corridor. You have not won. Clara's heart raced again, adrenaline pumping. She stood at the brink of a yawning chasm, uncertainty gnawing at her resolve. How had she only traded one darkness for another? Ready or not, she thought, I have to face what's to come. And with that, she stepped forward, ready to confront whatever was waiting at the bottom. Would she be devoured by it, or would she rise anew? Clara braced herself, teetering on the edge of an unknown destiny. Clara plummeted into the abyss. The darkness surrounded her, heavier than before, wrapping around her like chains. Time stretched, and the blind fall felt endless. Panic clawed at her throat, but amidst the chaos, she held on to the flicker of strength she had summoned. There was no turning back now. Just as terror began to take root, Clara landed hard on a marble surface, the impact jarring her senses. She lifted her head, finding herself in a sprawling chamber lit by flickering torches. Shadows danced along the walls, illuminating grotesque figures made birthing into unsettling half-human shapes. They skittered away as Clara caught sight of them, hissing and whimpering. "Welcome to my domain, Light-bearer." A voice slithered through the air, smooth yet filled with malice. Clara spun around to face a towering figure, draped in dark fabric flowing like liquid night. Its eyes were pinpricks of light, swirling with fury and amusement. "You think you can balance the shadows? You think you can play both sides?" The figure laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the chamber. "You'll find I hold the cards here." Clara's heart raced as the words struck hard. Did she think she could navigate this fierce labyrinth of darkness unscathed? She took a steadying breath, refusing to let fear dictate her movements. "I'm not afraid of you," she challenged, though her voice trembled slightly. "Is that so?" The figure took a step closer. "To embrace the light is to reject the darkness. But you wish to have both. Let us test that theory." From the shadows behind it, a swarm of figures emerged, specters of her past failures and insecurities, popping out of the darkness like twisted marionettes. "This is your truth, Clara," they cackled, their voices a jarring symphony of whispers. "You're not enough. You can't win against your own mind." For a moment, Clara felt herself buckle. Every old wound, every unhealed scar flashed before her. The failed attempts, the heartbreak, the moments where she had convinced herself she was stronger than what this darkness claimed her to be. Yet something bubbled beneath the surface, an infallible spirit that refused to yield. "I am both light and dark," she shouted, louder this time. "I embrace my mistakes."
Ibunte ve torna part.
Her words burst forth like flames, igniting the air around her as the darkness recoiled. The towering figure sneered. "Strength in vulnerability? Perhaps, but let us see what happens when you confront your worst fear." It raised an arm, and the ground began to tremble. A massive portal opened beneath Clara, its depths swirling with chaos like a hurricane funnel. She felt its pull, the fear of falling again, but along with that fear, a steadiness anchored her as well. "Don't fight it," the figure taunted, its voice scraping against her mind. "What if your worst fear becomes your reality? Can you withstand it?" Clara understood the stakes now. The balance she fought for hung in the balance. She didn't want to be thrown into the void again, but how could she counter this test of her will? The swirling abyss beckoned, the shadows whispering promises of defeat and despair. In that tantalizing instant, as the portal yawned wider, Clara made her choice again. She would not shy away from confronting her deepest fear, whatever it was, and seize the very core of her existence. "Bring it on," she cried, standing tall despite the turbulence. Before she could brace for impact, a wave of brilliance erupted from her heart, lighting up the chamber with a blinding glow. But with that brilliance came an unbearable flash of pain, and a shuddering realization pinched her stomach. What if she wasn't the one controlling her destiny? What if she had awakened something much greater within this darkness? A shattering noise erupted as a part of the ceiling crumbled, and Clara fell backward, heart pounding as the shadows coiled around her once more. What had she unleashed? And would it be a curse or a gift? Next time, the dark figure grinned. "We'll see just how far you can truly fall." Clara gasped as the darkness overtook her, its tendrils wrapping tightly around her limbs, pulling her down into a tide of shadows. Her heart raced like a trapped bird, wild and desperate. The air sparkled with eerie energy, pulsating like a heartbeat. Suddenly, she landed in a place where nothing felt solid. All around her, the world flickered and then settled into something surreal. She stood on a shimmering dance floor, impossibly grand and illuminated by an ethereal glow. "Welcome to the Ball of Regrets." That sinister voice echoed again, reverberating through the mirrored walls. The towering figure in dark robes appeared at the edge of the floor, leaning casually against a velvet column with one arm crossed. Its grin seemed to stretch wider than possible. This was a game, and Clara was the unwitting player. The shadows morphed into elegantly dressed figures moving in time to the haunting, hypnotic music. They twirled and spun, their faces blurred and indistinct, each one a reminder of moments she had tried to forget. "Dance with them," the figure hissed, its eyes glinting like shards of ice. "Or let them drag you back into the abyss. Either way, you'll face what you fear most." Panic gripped Clara again, a shroud of suffocating dread. She could see the tortured expressions on those shadow-filled faces, her past weighing heavily on their shoulders. Each one seemed to call out to her, begging for recognition. Regret clawed at her throat as she recognized fragments of her life in those hollow eyes. But she wouldn't fall. Not this time. "No," she shouted defiantly, her voice carrying strength. "I won't let you take me." Her refusal echoed through the hall, and the music faltered, a deep, unsettling silence hovering for a moment. The shadows hesitated, then narrowed in angry swirls. The towering figure laughed, cruel and triumphant. "Your will is a flickering flame, Clara. You think you can control the dance?" It gestured dramatically, and the dance floor warped, rippling under Clara's feet as the figures surged toward her. She could feel their cold hands reaching out, grasping, and she felt her heart thundering in response, a primal instinct kicking in. "Face them," the figure commanded, almost gleeful in its mockery. "Claim your past or let it consume you." Clara closed her eyes tightly, summoning that flicker of strength once more, the one that defied all logic. It was mingled with the joy of her victories and the pain of her losses. Every step she had taken, every mistake she had made, they were all woven into the fabric of who she was. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice gaining a depth of clarity as she spread her arms wide, inviting the shadows to reveal themselves. "I will not run from you anymore." When she opened her eyes, the figures that swirled before her shifted, transforming into reflections of herself, versions from her past, each bearing the weight of her choices. Faces of shame, doubt, and guilt stared back, but alongside them, flickers of bravery, resilience, and love emerged. Together, they enacted a dance of catharsis. The floor glowed brighter as Clara's essence began to blend with theirs, flooding her heart with warmth. "Look at what I can do." She let the joy rise within her, and the figures found form, twirling gracefully around her. They became a symphony of light, laughter, and healing. Yet, in that moment of clarity, the towering figure's expression darkened. "You think this changes anything?" spat, voice laced with rage. "You will take the dance to the edge, and I will prove you are nothing." Its arms shot upward and the chamber shook. A crack opened in the ceiling above, revealing spirals of darkness that threatened to collapse onto them like a storm. Clara's heart dropped as she realized what she was up against. Was she strong enough to hold her own reality together even when forces sought to shatter it? "Fight, Clara," she urged herself, arms rising to encircle the swirling energies around her. What a dance without a little risk. The potential doom loomed overhead, an imminent threat clashing against her newfound strength. Would she win this round, or would it be the last dance for her? The darkness surged closer, the collapse inevitable, but Clara's determination flashed brighter. And somewhere in that glowing heart of the storm, an undeniable question lingered: was this truly the battle to win, or was something even more sinister unfolding behind the dance? Clara felt the tempest within her roar, a mix of fear and resolve. The towering figure laughed, its voice stretching across the chamber, mocking her faint flicker of hope. The darkness pressed closer, bending reality like a bowstring, ready to snap. But Clara knew something had shifted. She wasn't alone anymore. Let them come, Clara challenged defiantly, the warmth of her gathered strength igniting around her. This ends now. With a fierce determination, she reached out, the shadows pulsating like a wild heartbeat. Instead of shy away, she dove deeper into the center of her pain, her past unfurling before her like a sprawling tapestry, filled with both warmth and heartbreak. Each figure that danced in the shadows was a part of her, the good, the bad, and most importantly, the lessons. The swirling darkness hesitated, unnerved by the resolve radiating from Clara. You think you can merge your light with my dark? The figure hissed, its fury rising like a tempest. You are merely a flicker in my storm. No, Clara shouted amid the chaos, her voice resonating with newfound clarity. I am the storm. I dance with both light and dark. I want to be defined by just one part of me. As she spoke, a luminescence began to engulf the figures dancing around her. The air crackled with energy, and the grotesque reflections transformed, illuminating their forms. Shadows were turning into luminous versions of herself, filled with power and potential. She felt the pulse of unity, their fears converging with her courage. In that moment, Clara's heart opened wide, pouring forth resilience and strength. She wasn't just facing off against the dark figure. She was reclaiming everything they had tried to steal from her. Light and shadow merged, intertwining like a waltz of dichotomies, creating a vibrant dance of all she had ever been. With a final plunge, she launched forward, drawing all the dark energy in, transforming it into a bright surge of light that filled the chamber. Her resolve swept away the lingering whispers of doubt and despair, enveloping the towering darkness like a veil. Enough! Clara roared, and the energy exploded, a shockwave that shattered the ceiling into crystalline fragments. The darkness dissipated. The once thundering chamber transformed into a realm of shimmering light. The twisted figure writhed, its gaze faltering, sensing defeat. You can't be serious, it screeched, recoiling as Clara's light surged forth uncontrollably. Oh, I am, she smiled, a fierce radiance blooming on her face. This is my reckoning. I accept all that I am. In that decisive moment, everything changed. Clara's energy spread like wildfire, illuminating the chamber. The shadows twisted and shrieked, dissolving into harmless mist as the embodiment of her fears crumbled into sheer nothingness. And then, with a final rush, everything erupted into brilliance. Clara fell to her knees, breathless and exhausted, swept into a colossal wave of light. When the radiance receded, she found herself back in the grand ballroom. The music resumed, soft and gentle, the guests around her staring in awe and disbelief. Eyes wide, mouths agape. There was no fear now, only a palpable relief that hovered like a warm blanket in the air. Clara? Came the voice of the man who had once reached for her. He stepped forward, brow furrowed with concern, but something more hope. You did it. The thrill of victory rushed over her, and she stood, steadying herself. I faced my fear. We all can. She turned slowly, soaking in the faces around her, glowing in a new light. Shadows of doubt replaced with expressions of optimism. But Clara knew she had more to do. The challenge was never just mine. She called out, her voice steadier now amidst the chaos. We've all faced shadows. Scars, mistakes, they don't define who we are. Learn to embrace both parts, light and dark, and you will see the truth. One by one, the crowd began to nod, feeling the weight of her words settle within them. They had witnessed a dance far more significant than mere waltzing moments. It was a dance of growth, resilience, and realization. Tonight, we shed the burdens from our past and embrace who we are. Every piece, Clara declared, a broad smile breaking across her face. She felt lighter, liberated. The guests began to cheer, laughter bursting forth as the shadows lifted. As the music swelled, Clara took a step back toward the dance floor while a wave of relief washed over her. She extended her hand toward the man, inviting him into the dance. As he took her hand, the room twirled in a celebration of hope, and Clara felt a profound connection, a shimmering pulse of energy that had been awakened within everyone. The night had carved a new beginning, a culture of reclamation that would echo beyond the ballrooms and shadows, and in that moment, she understood. The dance never truly ends. It evolves. Each step forward is an embrace of both dawn and dusk. The moonlight glistened through the tall windows as the world outside began to gleam with new light, casting away the remnants of darkness. Clara knew that life's dance was a never-ending journey filled with shadows and light, and all that truly mattered was the choice to keep dancing. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the continuation of Clara's journey of strength and discovery. This is the moment to show your support by smashing the like button now. It helps us keep the stories coming every week. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Clara's incredible journey. What do you think she'll face next? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need this inspiration in their lives. Let us spread the light.